In this lab, I'm going to be setting up an H323 Gatekeeper. The purpose of a Gatekeeper is for a centralized point of address resolution, admission control, bandwidth control, and zone management. The more routers that you add to your network, the more dial pairs you're going to need, so that's where the Gatekeeper comes in. Rather than having all of the routers have all of the dial pair configurations for the network, meaning this router knowing where the phones are on this router, and this router knowing where the phones are on this router, and so on, you create a single dial pair on each router that says that anything that you don't know about, just send it to the Gatekeeper. So the Gatekeeper becomes the central point of contact for the network. This is the topology that we're going to be working with. We have three routers here. The first router up here is going to be the Gatekeeper, and that's going to be at 10.1.1. And then we have the Cleveland router in Zone A, and that's going to be at 10.1.1.2. And then we have the Westlake router in Zone B, and that's going to be at 10.1.1.3. A zone defines all of the devices under a Gatekeeper's control. So that's going to be these phones here in Zone A, and these phones over here in Zone B. Zone prefixes defines the call numbers available in a zone. So that's going to be these extensions here. Cleveland, that's going to be at 5555 and the 5556 extension. And then in Westlake Zone B, that's going to be the 2225 and the 2226 extensions. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to configure the Gatekeeper. And first we're going to do a config T and type in Gatekeeper. And let's see, the first command here, this is going to be the zone local, zone A, then acme.com 10.1.1.1. So this defines the zones that we have. We have two zones that are managed by the Gatekeeper. That's going to be zone A and zone B. And all the zones are managed by DNS, so that's why I have this acme.com. I just came up with that just for the purpose of the lab. So, and then the 10.1.1, that's going to be the IP address of the Gatekeeper. So let's go over to the router and type in zone and question mark, and then it's going to be local. So that's going to be the local zone and question mark. In Word, that's going to be the zone. That's going to be zone A, and then hit the question mark, and the domain name, that's the domain I came up for this lab, that's going to be acme.com, question mark, and then the IP address of the Gatekeeper, that's going to be 10.1.1.1, hit enter, and hit the up arrow. And then we gotta change this to the other zone. It's gonna be zone B. And then the next command that we have to enter, that's gonna be the zone prefix zone A 5.5. So next you need to add the prefixes. The Gatekeeper needs to know what's available in these zones. So that's gonna be the two extensions here and here. So let's go back to the router and type in zone question mark and prefix. So that's sets the prefixes for the zone, and hit question mark, and Word, that's going to be the zone. It's going to be zone A, and then the prefix dot. Hit the up arrow, and zone B, that's going to be 2 ... Hit enter, and then no shutdown. And that's all you need to configure for the Gatekeeper. And next we're going to configure the Cleveland Gateway. And config T, and type in no gateway. And then we want to configure the interface. All the configuration is going to go under the interface that's going to be communicating with the Gatekeeper. So that's going to be the interface fast Ethernet 0/0. So this is the first command here that we're going to be typing in. This is the interface that will be communicating with the Gatekeeper. So let's go back to the router and H3 VoIP interface. And then the next command is going to be this. And this is what zone you will be registering with when communicating with the Gatekeeper. That's the zone we configured on the Gatekeeper and the IP address of the Gatekeeper. So it's going to be this command here. So let's go back to the router. H323 gateway VoIP ID question mark, and that's going to be zone A. And hit the question mark. That's going to be IP address and question mark. That's going to be the IP address of the Gatekeeper. That's going to be 10.1.1.1 question mark. Port number is going to be 1719. I believe that's the default, so you don't really need to add that. Then the next command is going to be this H323 gateway VoIP H323 ID Cleveland. So that tells the router when registering with the Gatekeeper, register with this name. So which is going to be this name here, Cleveland. So we want to go back to the Cleveland router and type in H323 VoIP H323, cut the question mark, and the word, that's going to be the name of the router, which is Cleveland. And let's see what's next here. Now we want to configure the dial pair. So destination pattern dot. That's any 4 digits dial will be forwarded to the Gatekeeper. And the next command, session target RAS, that's registration, admission, and status. So that's going to be the Gatekeeper. So I'll just cut and paste that in to save some time here. And next we want to add the dial pairs, the phone numbers for our 2 phones. So that's going to be dial pair voice 1 POTS. That's going to be destination pattern 5555, and that's going to be out port 1/1/0. And then we have the other phone at 5556, and that's that port 1/1/1. So I'm going to cut and paste that. Go back to the router, cut and paste that in. And if I type in gateway, it should register with the Gatekeeper, hopefully. And there we go, I just registered with the Gatekeeper. So if I do a show gateway, and we're now configured with the or registered with the Gatekeeper. So if I go over to the Gatekeeper and do a show Gatekeeper endpoint, and it shows that I'm currently registered, or the Cleveland is registered with the Gatekeeper. Here's the ID. Here's the 2 phone extensions. And next we want to do the Westlake router. So that's basically going to be the same configuration. The only thing that's going to be different is zone B, the ID, and the POTS numbers. So I'm going to just cut and paste that in to save some time. Let's see. Cut and paste that in. And let's go over to the Westlake router. Config T. just going to cut and paste that in. And it didn't like something. F0/0. Okay. And big T. Gateway. And it should register with the gateway now. Hopefully. And there we go. It just registered with the Gatekeeper. And do a show gateway. And we are currently registered with the Gatekeeper. And if we go back to the Gatekeeper, do a show endpoints. And both our routers are now registered with the Gatekeeper. The Westlake router, Cleveland router, and our extensions here. And anyway, next I'm gonna make a phone call from this phone to this phone, and it should go through the Gatekeeper first to set up the call. So let me see what I want to do here. I want to do a debug RAS on the Gatekeeper. So yeah, let me bring the diagram back up. And get rid of this. And get the Gatekeeper. And now I'm going to make a call. And bring this back up a little more. Cleveland router back there. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to make a call from the 5555 extension to the 22225 extension. So we should see the debug. We should see the information going to the debug on the Gatekeeper when I make the calls here. So I'm going to make the call now. Picking up the phone. Now I'm going to dial the 22225 number. And we have no ringing. Let me hang that back up here and try it again. 2225. Let's see. We're getting a reject. Let me try something here. There we go. So, and now I'm going to pick up the other phone here. And you can see the different request messages going through here. And if I do a UAll, stop the debug, and show Gatekeeper calls, and you can see now we have an active call going through. That's going to be from the Westlake to the Cleveland, and the bandwidth being used is 16 kilobits per second. Let's see what else can I show here. Let's make one more call. 5556, and to show Gatekeeper calls, and now we have two calls going through. So those calls are two active calls going from this side to this side, and all the call setup was going to the Gatekeeper originally. Then once the calls are set up, it just goes to the routers themselves. It doesn't go to the Gatekeeper any longer until I hang up the phones here. Let me do let's go back to the Gatekeeper and do a debug RAS again and hang up the phones. It should have the shows the phones being disconnected. So that's basically all I wanted to show. Thanks for watching.